Haley, and I am a family advocate here at CPCD. I'm also the lead parent facilitator, so that is why I'm recording these Make Parenting a Pleasure classes because I care a lot about our parenting courses. So hopefully you find this a convenient way to take our Make Parenting a Pleasure class. Today we are going to be going over long-term stress and anger management. Just a couple tidbits. If you see me looking to my left or my right, it's because I have notes that I am referring to for our curriculum that we'll be going over. Over here to my right, I do have a packet of information that we would be giving out to you if you were taking the class in person or in home, at school, at our central office, wherever. I will be showing it to you from time to time. You definitely have access to this packet if you like the information you've learned today and you want to be able to reference back to it. There's also some nice worksheets in here too to kind of practice the things that we'll be talking about. You can get that from your family advocate. Every family advocate has access to it. So just feel free to ask if you're interested. And I think that is everything. So if you've taken a Make Parenting a Pleasure class that was sent to you like this one via link, you have gone over this part. So you can go ahead and just bear with me if you don't mind. Let's see. There we go. These are our core themes and basic assumptions. These are important for us to go over every time we teach a class because they are everything that we're going to be learning about. The idea of a basic assumption is that it's kind of the foundation of what we're talking about today. So we go over it every time. So if you already heard it maybe earlier today, then just bear with me for just a second. The first one is parents who come to parenting classes are special. This is my favorite one because it's so true. A lot of us are parents, but not a lot of us take the time to say, I want to learn about this. I love my children and I love being a parent, but there's always room to learn and improve your skills. And maybe something that you'll hear today will help you in the lifelong occupation of being a parent. So you're very special for coming today and we really appreciate it. Parents are the foundation of the family. Parenting is the most important and challenging job there is. Parents care deeply about their children, and they are the experts about their children. This also means that you are going to be the best advocate that your child will ever have because you know them the best, so you'll be able to advocate for their needs the most effectively. Parents have to take care of themselves in order to take care of their children. I'm very passionate about this being true. I would say if you don't feel like your self-care is 10 out of 10 perfect, I would really suggest taking our self-care class either with your family advocate. You can also check your parenting calendar. We do teach them in larger groups, or of course you can just get the link and listen to me talk about it. So, but I really suggest that one. There is no one right way to be a parent or child. Parenting is a learned process. We teach our children through words and by example. Every parent and every child is unique. It is important to build on strengths, and parents need a support network. Now, all of these, like I said, are kind of at the basis of what Make Parenting a Pleasure is. If any of these really stick out to you, if you are just really passionate about one, or maybe one confuses you, all of them are gone over in one of, or maybe multiple of the 6 sessions that there are for Make Parenting a Pleasure. If there's one in particular, or maybe all of them, feel free to, again, reach out to your family advocate. They would be happy to talk to you about any of these, or you could talk to them about which video would be best. We have it broken up into 6 sections for any time you take the class. We can very easily break it up that way. They'll know exactly which section to point you to. So just if you're interested, please reach out. We appreciate any conversation we can have about Make Parenting a Pleasure because we love it. Another one is group norms, as I've said in every other video of these, but I will continue to say these are a little bit more geared towards if we're doing this class in a bigger group. But if you have any questions today or anything you would like to discuss, even if you don't agree with something and you want to discuss it with someone, These group norms apply. Everything is confidential. Uh, they are voluntary, and we stand by being supportive and non-judgmental and remaining respectful. So like I said, today we're going to be talking about long-term stress and anger management. There are 5 basics for managing long-term stress. You can see them here on your screen. They also are in the packet that I talked about earlier. The first one is building a support network. I'm hoping that you have some sort of support network, a group of people you can rely on, whether that's family or friends, maybe a neighbor, somebody that you can rely on to kind of be there for you, especially in those emergency situations. A support network is huge. And if that is something that you're struggling with, again, your family advocate would love to talk about it. One thing that I've always done with the parents that I have the pleasure to work with is if a support network is something they're struggling with, we will have an event. We can meet at Starbucks and we can all just grab coffee, and I'll probably talk about self-care because that's important to everyone. It's something that everyone should learn, and they kind of just get to know each other. So using our family calendars that we send home and they're in your classroom to go to those events and make some friends for lifelong connections is a great way to build that support network, especially in Colorado Springs. It can be hard to build a support network with the multiple military bases. There's colleges, there's all sorts of things that make it so people are kind of in and out a lot. And so it's okay to say, I need help building this support network to make this more of a home for me. That's okay. And reach out and say you need that, because it's a huge way to manage your long-term stress if you have somebody that has your back. Another one is creating family routines. If you took, let me look at which class, it was our self-care, nurturing and stress section. You heard a little bit about that kids can have really hard times with transition. So can adults. It's so great to build these routines and be consistent because it just lowers everyone's stress a little bit. We all know what's coming. We all know what we're going to do next, and kind of sticking to that as close as you can. And that's not necessarily natural for most families. I know on a weekend, I couldn't tell you a real routine that my family has. We have them a little bit more during the week because both me and my husband do work. And so there is more of a routine, but the closer we stick to, you come home and you grab a snack and you sit down and do your homework, and then you help me set the table and then we eat dinner. As much as we can stay close to our personal routine, the less stress there are for my kids, and there's the less stress there is for me. Another one is simplify family routines at high stress times. This is also something I talked about, is one big challenge that I have had in the past with 2 of these little girls that I had the pleasure of watching in my home for a little bit. I was their foster mom for just a short period of time. They would not get their shoes on time to get to school. And I don't know why I let it stress me out for so long. I could have simplified our family's routine at that high stress time of those last 5 minutes before we had to get out the door to get to school. And if I simplified those, I would be less stressed, my kids would be less stressed. It really could have been an easy fix. So looking at what's a high stress time and how can you simplify that part of your routine, because it doesn't need to be that way. There's almost always a solution. Another one is have one thing a week that you look forward to doing with your family, like special time. And we'll talk about that a little bit more throughout the course of Make Parenting a Pleasure, but special time is huge for your kids. Think about how excited they are when you get to go do something different from the norm. So having one time a week, even if it's the scheduled 1 hour every Saturday, we do special time. I know one thing that we will actually do later on in this coursework is our special time that we did a lot with our kids is having like a song time. And so it would be, sometimes it was Baby Shark and we'd all do Baby Shark and we'd sing it and we'd do the motions. And Then sometimes it was just the songs on the radio and we'd have a dance party, but that was our special time. And we tried to do it almost every single day. And it was just a fun thing that we all looked forward to. Another one is taking care of yourself. Again, please, please listen to the self-care talk and figure out how can you better take care of yourself to then in turn take care of people better. So we talked a little bit about it, but who is your support system? This is something that's really important to identify because when the time comes, our brains don't think of, oh, here, okay, I'm in a stressful situation, here's the list of people I can call. That's not really how our brains work in those times of high stress. We have to already kind of have that in place. So in the packet that I will continue referring to, there's a support network form. That includes just a lot of questions and kind of fill in the blanks of who can you call on the phone at least once a week for just a friendly talk, just catching up and talking kind of about nothing, you know, to really relieve some of that stress, just have some adult talk time. Who can you call when you have a problem with the baby or your younger children? Who could babysit for an evening? Who will go with your family for an outing? Those are all really important things that it changes the dynamic. If you have somebody that has your back, even in low stress situations, just someone you like to spend time with, it's a game changer for your stress. So I would really encourage you to take some time to think about, where is that support network? Maybe you don't have family that lives in town. Maybe you recently moved. Where are you going to find that? Where are you going to seek that out? Because it's very rare in life that it just comes to us, which I'm sure all of you are thinking the same thing. And like, but it's so hard to make friends as an adult, which I totally agree with. I totally do. But there are plenty of opportunities that might require you to get out of your comfort zone, but it is so important to build that support system. And your mental health, your lack of stress, and in turn, your family's lack of stress is worth it to have those uncomfortable moments to make that support system. If you have any questions about how to do that, use our agency as a resource. We have classes for health nutrition. We have these Make Parenting a Pleasure classes where there's groups of, around 5 to 10 people, nothing huge, just enough people to kind of meet one another and have that discussion. Your family meetings at your school, that's a great way. Pick up, drop off, just say hi and kind of start that relationship. You've got a whole school year to talk with that person at pick up and drop off every single day if you wanted to. It might be uncomfortable, but I really believe it's super duper important to have that support system. Excuse me. So now we're going to talk about stress and anger management techniques. This quote is from Aristotle, and it says, "Anyone can become angry. That is easy. But to be angry with the right person, to the right degree, at the right time, for the right purpose, and in the right way, that is not easy." Which I'm sure as we're reading that, you're like, yeah, getting all those things right when I'm already stressed and angry is so hard. And that's why people that come to parenting classes are so special. They say that stress and anger might be something that you're really struggling with right now, and no one wants to admit that that's something that they're struggling with. We want everybody to feel like we have it all together, and that doesn't have to be true. It's okay to ask for help every once in a while. We all need it from time to time. But the reason that you are so special for coming is that you've decided that that's something you're struggling with, and you've decided to improve yourself. So again, you're very special for coming to parenting classes. So let's go. I'm going to flip back to my handy packet. Actually has it's called the 99 Ways to Cope with Stress. And it's just kind of fun. Some of them are, probably not going to help with your stress, but some of them really might, like ones getting up early, planning ahead, looking at the stars, watch a ballet, buy a flower, put air freshener in your car, eat a meal by candlelight, get enough sleep, say hello to a stranger, just little things like that that can really change the outcome of your day and your outlook on the day. Let me flip my notes here. One thing that I think is important to talk about is how we learned about stress and anger, because as we talked about in our child development section, if you got the chance to listen to that one or attend that one, we learned so much at such a young age, and we talk about it with our kids, but we were the same way. We picked up things from the park, from maybe going to soccer practice or school or at a friend's house. You picked things up about how the world worked. And something that we often don't think about, but is actually really important, is how did you know when your parents or your caregivers were stressed or angry? And it's hard to think about, but is that the way that you deal with stress and anger now? I know that was really tough for me. I remember growing up thinking, I don't want to handle stress and anger in the same way that my parents did. But until I was an adult and I realized that that is the way that I was responding, it was really difficult to respond any other way, because that's what I learned at such a young age. And I'm sure that's true for so many of us. So thinking about, how did I know that about my parents? Not beating yourself up that maybe that's the way you handle it now, and then making a decision on how you want to handle anger and stress. Maybe you've seen a friend that handles it really well and you want to do that. Or, maybe you have no idea how you want to handle it. You just know you want to improve that. That's great. That's a great place to start. But having that conversation with yourself or even with someone you trust is really important to kind of get the ball rolling on where we're going to go from here. Excuse me. So this is, there's going to be a lot of videos in all of these online classes, because when we're in person, we love to show videos. If you want access to any of them, again, we're happy to send you the actual slides where you can watch them. This is a funny clip. I can't remember what movie it's from, but it's Adam Sandler. And they're getting upset. The flight attendant's getting upset at him for asking for headphones, and he feels like he's being very reasonable, but this flight attendant just keeps escalating, and it's just a funny little scene. So this is what we talked about. How did you know when your parents or caregivers were angry? And I do really encourage you to have that conversation. It's important to note as well that anger is a completely normal emotion. It's normal to feel anger, and it's normal to express it. It's not something that, when you're younger and maybe your child is really angry and it comes out in a temper tantrum and you're angry because, you won't let them eat the remote, and you're like, this is not a real thing to be angry about. And you're right, it's a very silly thing to be angry about, but that's the part that's silly, not the emotion, if that makes sense. It's what the child is upset about, not that they're angry. Because angry is totally normal. You will feel it for the rest of your life from time to time. I hope it's not all the time, but it'll always come back up. So it's normal to feel it. It's normal to express it, but that means it has to be normal for us to know how we want to handle it. So the way we choose to express anger are generally learned when we are growing up from the people we observe and live around. When we notice our early warning signs as we begin to get angry and how we express our anger, we can better control how we handle our anger. So, and that's important with every emotion that you feel. We talk about that with stress as well. What are those early warning signs? How do you know that you're getting angry? Some people, they tense up their bodies. They notice that their jaw's clenched and their shoulders are up. And some people, they physically can feel warmer. Or I know there's a ton of different ways that you can kind of start to feel that you're angry. There's physical, emotional. There's also self-talk, which is something we talked about in the class previous to this one, in the self-care and nurturing. Our self-talk, what we hear in our brains when we're talking to ourselves, we get to choose if it's positive or negative. And for the most part, I hope that your self-talk is positive. If not, then I really encourage you to go back and listen to the self-care section, because it is a choice of what your self-talk is going to be. And I want yours to be positive, and you want yours to be positive. It's just a better way to live your life. But a lot of people can tell they're starting to get angry when that self-talk turns negative. All of a sudden, they're a little bit more pessimistic, might be a little bit shorter with the people that they love and care about. They don't mean to be, but they're just getting rubbed the wrong way over and over and over again. That probably means that we're dealing with some anger, right? And I hope that you do take a moment to just kind of brainstorm what those physical, emotional, even self-talk symptoms of anger are for you. And that way you can figure out quicker how to handle your anger rather than blowing up and then fixing the problem. We'd rather, just avoid the problem altogether. So we're going to talk about the NBCs of handling anger. So we want to learn, and we want our children to learn healthy ways to express their anger. Like I said, it's going to come up. It's going to happen in life where you're angry. It just will. And so you have to come up with the ways to handle it that don't destroy so much, right? How many times when we're angry, we say something we regret or we do something we regret? If we just learn these strategies, then I hope we can avoid those things that we have to go back and then fix. Instead, we just handle it correctly the first time. It takes a lot of practice and it's difficult work, but your relationships and your children will be better because you will be a positive role model for expressing anger. So these NBCs is also in your packet. It's notice, breathe, and cope. So the first skill in managing anger is to notice when you begin to feel angry. Each of us has early warning signs like we've talked about. There's physical. You can notice what your body is doing. Some people get headaches and they feel tenseness. I know I feel a tenseness like in my face. I'm not relaxing anymore. Just sitting there, I'm flexing muscles in my face and in my back because I'm stressed and I'm angry. There's emotional ways that you can feel it. I know some people, they cry when they're angry and they're like, what the heck, I'm angry. Why am I even crying? But it's just a normal response that some people have. You can also feel really overwhelmed. And again, noticing your self-talk is so important. Are you using negative self-talk like, I'm a terrible parent, my child is such a brat, this is impossible? Those negative things that really aren't contributing anything to that moment. They're not making it more positive or productive. There's no reason for that self-talk to be there. So we need to notice that it's negative. And then we're going to move to our next step of breathing. And these are going to be the same steps that we used in the stress section. Those stress busters that we talked about are excellent ways to deal with anger, just like it is with stress. One of those is taking a parent timeout. This is one of my favorite ones. Of course, make sure that your children are safe. Don't leave them in an unsafe situation to go take your parent timeout. Leave them for just a few minutes to take a breath. Whatever you need to do in that moment. I know sometimes when I'm upset, I put my hair up and I wash my face. Helps me calm down for a second. It just, splashing that water on my face, I take a deep breath. And that's a really good parent timeout for me, but it doesn't even have to be that. It can be as simple as you had to walk around the corner and use one of our other stress busters of taking those 3 deep breaths where you're counting to 10 and then you're exhaling, inhaling and exhaling. Just doing that 3 times really can change your mentality. It just completely changes the way your body feels, relaxes you. It's a quick, easy thing that you can do that's also really easy to teach your kids. If you've been in our classroom very much, or maybe your child has picked it up and has brought it home, they call them belly breaths. Your children are already learning that with us. When we see kids getting stressed or angry or even anxious, we tell them to take belly breaths where their hands on their bellies and they push their bellies in and out with their breaths, taking those deep breaths. Just take a moment. Another one is talking to someone. Of course, that's part of that support network. I would really encourage all of you to identify one person that when you're really stressed, you can call them and there will be no judgment, no, well, you need to just get over it. It's none of that. Someone that's supportive and understands that being a parent is stressful and it's just something that you need to talk about sometimes. Another one is let it out, of course, safely again, but sometimes people just need to run. They feel so angry. They just need to get that pent up energy out. Do that in a safe and constructive way if that's what helps you. Changing your self-talk from negative to positive. Some people can just do that, and that's a great skill if you can do it. I generally need to take a deep breath and then I can change it. But if you can just change it, do it. Make yourself feel better. And those are all ways that you're going to cope. So notice that you're getting upset, breathe, figure out how you need to take that moment to cope with the anger that you're feeling. And that way you can handle that emotion in a way that you're proud of and in a way that you want your children to model as they grow up. There's our strategies to cope with anger. So let me go back so you're not just staring at a blank screen. I think that this packet is really helpful. I'm going to go over just a little bit more of what we have in these packets. Just in case you don't want to get it, we can at least talk about what's in it. There is in here an anger management plan. So it's where you write down an event, and then you write down what those early signs were for you. How did you feel physically? How did you feel emotionally? What was your self-talk like? And then write down, did you take your moment to breathe? And what did you choose to do to cope? Did you take that parent time out? Did you go on a run? What did you do? And that way you can kind of track what's working for you. And you'll see this throughout Make Parenting a Pleasure. We really like to use data on yourself for what works for you. That way you can make informed choices on how you cope with anger, how you cope with stress, all of that. I think it's really important to track what you've done in the past week so that you can continue to make the best choices for yourself. And that's really, the extent of our packet. I really encourage you guys to grab it so you can do that worksheet. Like I said at the beginning, if you have any questions at all, please ask your family advocate. They are all trained in this curriculum and they would be happy to answer any questions you have. I hope you continue to make parenting a pleasure, and I hope you got something from today. Thanks. Bye-bye.